Hello everyone, and welcome to an animation breakdown by me, DigiFinch, for my latest animation for Hatfilms, Worms and Warlocks. In this, it's not going to be so much a tutorial as a list of things that I kind of wish I knew when I started out, and hopefully, if you're interested in animating, it'll save you some time. Or perhaps I'll just make a fool out of myself. Here are my specs. I animate at 1280 by 720, which is standard high def. FPS at 24.95. That is to keep the lip sync consistent with the animation, because I found that if you run it at 25 frames per second, like with Wizard's Kiss, sorry, I'm not going to be editing this down, so if I just go on an incoherent rampage, you're just going to have to deal it out, whatever. But if you're using an editing suite, make sure that you set the FPS to 25 frames per second, because if you set it at 24, like with Lady's Voice, I think it was, on Hatfilms' channel, it kind of looks a bit choppy. I animate using Flash CS3, which I got legally, wink wink nudge nudge. Tablet Bamboo Splash, I got it last year. It's really good actually. I've used it for a year and there's no wear and tear, so I'd recommend this. Brush smoothing, that's pretty important, because Flash tends to F up lines pretty good. Audio Audacity, pretty standard, and Zoom 266. Generally what I do is I do fit to window, and then I zoom in twice, and that'll kind of give me, the zoom I should do, and I found that 266 works really well, and it's actually very important to keep your zoom consistent or your lines will look pretty choppy. Alright, next, for character models, as you'll find with my animation, I kind of just base them off of primary shapes and then add to it. Trot is just a circle and it's sort of a triangle shape. Ross is a square with hair, and Smithy is a circle. It's kind of lazy, but it gets the job done, and you can do a lot of stuff with them, and it's really neat. .com. And here's some pro tips. First of all, to learn keyboard shortcuts. It'll save you a lot of time, especially sort of what the ones are for brush and copy paste, F5, F6, add frames, copy frames. RAM is your friend. Flash eats up RAM. In fact, I can hear my computer sort of whirring to deal with all the RAM that I'm using right now. And if you don't have enough RAM, then Flash will crash quite often. Speaking of often, save often, obviously, because I can't tell you how many times I've just lost hours of footage because I'm an idiot and I don't save. Watch a lot of web animations and watch tutorials. Actually, if you pause a YouTube video and then use your sort of arrow keys on your keyboard, you can actually go through it frame by frame. So I found that's very helpful if you're looking to sort of learn how to do smears or anything like that. And stay consistent. I might have spelled that wrong because Flash doesn't have a good spell check tool, so apologies if you're just freaking out. I'm just going to make sure this is recording. Yep. Get back to Flash. So without further ado, I'm going to go into my Wizard's Worm animation and sort of walk you through general things about it. Hopefully this isn't too loud. Just go through the intro. Pretty standard. I've outlined in red all the things I kind of want to talk about. First of all, Trot's arms. Trot's arms are actually the same sort of symbol that I've pasted over twice. It's kind of lazy, but it's gonna look weird if I don't do that. So here you can see they're doing pretty much the same thing. And here you can see they kind of go down and then bounce back up. That is, I just kind of stretched the image a little bit, and that adds kind of a nice bounce to it, as you can kind of see. Sorry this looks so terrible. I'm using a pretty bad file here. I should have probably prepared this a bit better. I'm just gonna take all this out and show you the storyboard, because I think that would be pretty interesting. First of all, it's pretty primitive. I'll just run through it really quick. It should only take like 40 seconds. You can't really hear the audio, but as you can see, I usually try to be pretty ambitious with my storyboarding, and a lot of things get cut and a lot of things get added. For example, the spell effect I added because I just it would be boring if Trot just turned into a woman. It would be random and it wouldn't really make sense. So I thought the addition of that would be good, and we're pretty much over. So as you can see, it doesn't really have to be an animatic if you're using a lot of symbol-based and tween-based animation like I do. It just has to sort of, get across the basic idea of what you want to sort of put out. And here you can see that that's pretty mucked up. What happened to the grass? Did I erase the grass? I think I might have erased the grass. That's a shame. Here, I'm just gonna do something real quick. This is... I hope nothing else got erased. Jesus. There. Good as new. And as you can see, not only have I done a storyboard, but I've also done an animatic, which is just sort of like the basic animation that you want to do with it, and then you can outline it. But I use a lot of symbol-based and tween-based animation, so it's kind of irrelevant. But, you know, like you can see here, I've done a basic outline for what Trot's face should look like during that, and a basic outline of if I erase Trot pretty much all the way. I work in a lot of layers, and I probably shouldn't, because it's just going to muddy up everything, but, you know, whatevs. Erase all of this, erase that, erase the head. Trot's weird ice cream cone head shape. Jesus Christ, how many layers do I have? There. You can kind of see just him. The standard cone with a little plus to show where his face is sort of oriented. That's pretty, you know, box standard with these sort of things. Let me get rid of all this nasty storyboard stuff and get back to where I was going with this whole thing, which is, oh god, pretty much just erase all the guidelines. I might edit this out, I might not, depends on how sort of nice I'm feeling. Go back to the beginning. Right, so what you can see here is that, you know, I've written over Smith and the Wizard what they're saying. This actually helps me in lip sync, because what I do is that I don't actually go in and draw every single mouth, because that would probably take like 14 years and I'd be an old withered man by the time it was over. So what I do is I use a program called Keyframe Caddy, and you can kind of see it over here. And what it does is that you will draw in a single frame, or in a single symbol rather, all the mouths, or all the mouth shapes. That's a pretty bad one, that you want the character to use, and then it'll kind of let you sort of, you know, if I load this up, I really hope this doesn't crash. Yeah, there we go. I can kind of like click around and make his mouth turn into different things. I like this just because it looks more consistent, and I don't know why, but it always really bothers me when I see animation with inconsistent lip sync. The lines are pretty thin here. They're a bit thinner than I usually like them to be. That's because with Flash your lines get pretty jaggedy. So let me go in here and just show you off to the side here. Whoops, I had that selected. If you draw a line kind of slowly, see it kind of ebbs and flows a little bit, but you can kind of correct those lines by hand by doing this. And I often do that with sort of prominent models, like all of the Sura's character models I've gotten in and like handcrafted them, so to speak. But I don't really do that with like lip sync or the bodies very much. Moving right along, I'm kind of wasting a lot of time. This scene with the huge lightning spell effect probably took the longest out of everything to do, simply because I'm so new to this whole sort of, you know, I've never really done a spell effect except for Wizard's Kiss, in which I was pretty much a child baby. I didn't know how to do anything. So basically what we have here is we have the spell effect, which, if you'll notice, it remains stationary, where in the animation, well, I mean, you can kind of see it a little bit going on back there. In the animation it sort of like fizzles out, but if I actually go into the spell effect folder, here, lots and lots of layers, you can see that that's the final sort of spell effect. And under it I have, god, I've got a lot of things. I have a plain white layer. So I animated all of this in a layer of just, you know, using white sort of, I guess, ink, white color, and I just animated the lightning. Pretty simple. You can just look up a tutorial on how to animate lightning. It comes out really good. And then I pressed F8 to make a new symbol, called it lightning. Went into it, then pasted all of the frames, went back out of it, turned it into a movie clip, added some glow, nice blue glow, and there it is. Oh, I also kind of copy and pasted it twice to make it look more lightning-y. I did the same thing for Trot's sort of Super Saiyan blue lightning thing, And also, if you notice, if I go through this frame by frame, he turns into a walrus, right? Like Minecraft. That's a point. I should highlight some stuff that maybe people missed or didn't notice in the whole thing. I have this guy highlighted because if you notice, I didn't really like... I did his shading kind of sillily. I outlined him entirely with a black sort of tool, pretty bold black, and then I drew into it so I wouldn't have to actually go into his symbol every time and recolor him, because that would take forever. I did that with Smith, and as you can see, it just looks a bit awkward. Here, the explosion, this is an example of multiples, where you sort of copy and paste a drawing to kind of, you know, further sort of make the illusion of movement. It looks like I'm drawing more frames than I actually am. And I sort of lengthen out the features like the mouth darkness and the hair and the face. I kind of added a smear effect to them. Actually, a good example of a smear is right here, when the wizard is sort of spinning to face Trot, as Trot's face is just kind of glazing into the nothingness void of darkness or whatever. As you can see, I kind of just accentuated the features a little bit. It actually is pretty ugly, but it does get the point across that the wizard is moving quite quickly. The hands were done pretty haphazardly, and I just copy and pasted. The mouth is pretty much didn't change because it wouldn't. The eyebrows I actually added in pretty much the last second because the wizard really didn't look like he was staring at anything, and the eyebrows pretty much just gave him character, pretty much. That last pretty much was meant to be sarcastic, but it actually sounded genuine. Alright, moving right along. Explosion is... The explosion effect is pretty simple to do. You just kind of start with a little thing, and then it explodes really big. There's a little shockwave to push Smithy away. And then it sort of like lightens up. This is actually a tween. I tweened the alpha to 0 here, well here, and then tweened it to 100 here, so you can kind of see it get translucent. And then this character, whom I will call Ingrosia, sort of whines a little bit, and then her face like bounces to that. I seem to have also erased one of Ingrosia's legs, which is okay, because whatever. Those are just simple tweens. But for some reason it kind of kept the outlines of her legs. To do her legs, I just kind of like looked at a reference image for sexy legs in Google, which everyone that I ever knew saw and asked me about my Google searches, which are often very weird. I'll have like slutty woman or like mouth. But anyway, yeah, she bounces her legs up. And here you'll see sort of a black outline with a circle in the middle. This is an instance of VCam, which is a virtual camera, and you know it simulates the sort of cinematography effect of a camera sort of panning in or zooming in on a specific scene, and it's pretty easy to do. Just look up a VCam AS2 tutorial. Oh, also it's probably worth noting that I animate in ActionScript 2, which it's just kind of what everyone uses. It's good for swivel, which is the SWF to MP4 conversion thing that I use. I'm not too good with the tech lingo. Anyway, she sort of bounces around. This weird sort of Trot scene with everything is fine, that was just kind of like I needed something to do, and I had no ideas, so you know, whatevs. I sound like such a twat using whatevs here with my ugly grass and the weird tree. This KA plus CT, that's King Ashley. People have asked me if it's like KT or something. It's not. And maybe something you didn't notice, if I zoom all the way back, that says GFY. The clouds, they say GFY. And the carrot tree, that's not just a random lols kind of thing. I did that just, it's kind of nod to Snow Rebecca melting, because I heard that they just had like a pile of carrots in their backyard after Snow Rebecca melted, and that's actually her black nose right there. I can't draw, whoops. I almost got the urge to just save. That's just like how terrible I've gotten with this. I have to save every 30 seconds. With this scene, the VCam sort of zooms in really like a huge amount, and we see a profile of Smith with a weird neck thing sort of bouncing around. I did that with a nested symbol, which I use all the time now. In my earlier animations I didn't use them at all, but it's become pretty pivotal in my animation. Let me just try and find that. There it is. So if you'll see that it's tweened and stuff, and it's good because I can sort of, oops, I can double click in, and then there's all of the animation done. So I can animate it. I can animate it like right side up, and then flop it, you know, right side down, upside down, I should say. And yeah, you can see that all the lip sync is upside down. And if I delete this, you'll see that his face is just kind of scooped out to make room for the phonemes and the mouth shapes. Rah rah. Oh, I hope I haven't just. Oh, no, okay. And that sort of thing. Right, on to the next thing, which is. Let's see. Anything else I should cover really, or have I got like the basic gist of it down? Anything with Ross maybe? Ross is pretty standard. I like. Actually, you know what? Ross is the hardest member of Hatfilms to draw. I don't know why it is. Maybe it's because, you know, with Trot, he's got kind of the swish over hair. It's quite distinguishable. Smithy, he's got the ginger beard. You know, he's pretty easy to draw. But Ross, he's just kind of like, I don't want to say generic because that's probably very hurtful. But he's very simple to draw, and it's often hard to sort of capture him. So I've just resorted to doing him with very, very big, expressive eyes. Trot, I kind of use like this Psychic Pebbles Hellbenders model of just doing whatever the fuck and hoping it comes out alright. Smith, I'm embarrassed of how I did Smith's Smith's face in Ice Cream Lady's Voice and Grand Grope. It was like so weird and oblong. I don't know what I was doing back there, but I guess practice makes perfect. The fence and the house, they're both movie clips that I've sort of blurred a little bit to make look a bit nicer, and the clouds just go on a very slow tween in the background. Every time you see a character move, most of the time, it's me doing a tween, and something important with the tweens is that you want to make sure that for every action there is a almost equal reaction. So let me get to a good example of this. Trot actually has a good one. There we go. You can kind of see as his face is swooping down, that's like his farthest point is here, but if you go a frame back, it kind of pops up like that. Zoom in, like this. If I just had it so it would stop here, it would look really alien and almost like mechanical, and you want to sort of simulate that these are actual living sort of characters. And I'm sorry if I'm breaking the illusion for anyone. Yeah, originally I had Ross and Smith on the same side of the tree, and Ross was going to come out of Smith. Gross, but that got scrapped because I didn't have enough room. Let's see, I've got anything else. Also, if there's anything you want to ask me, go on my Tumblr. I've got an ask, and you can just like ask me whatever you want, and I promise I'll answer. Also, yeah, for pretty much every face that Trot makes, I have a guide layer underneath it, and most of them are usually pretty terrible and unfunny. But you know, I refine it, and it gets a lot better. Actually, a good example of the bounce effect that I use can be found in Trot's legs, which are just sort of black. You can kind of see how, if I zoom in really close here, the legs sort of fold out and then bounce a little bit, like that. That's me. I draw the legs like that, and then I stretch them out for just that frame, so it kind of looks like, you know, he's put them down really fast. Very subtle, but it looks nice, and that's kind of the whole point. I think that's pretty much it. Let me just run through really quick to make sure my highlighting hasn't gone amiss. It's quite difficult with the VCam to get anything consistent because it's quite jittery, and I haven't found a really good VCam code. So if anyone knows anything to help me get better at this, that'd be very much appreciated. Something to note also is that every single mouth shape that you'll see, or every time someone says something, that's a symbol that I've drawn about 80 times over. That's Trot's head. Which is, you know, it just, you know, consistency. That's what it's all about for me. It may not be the case for you, but I always like an animation to be consistent, even though I'm a big fan of non-linear sort of humor. Right, the worm that I did, that was kind of a last-minute decision. I originally had Trot sort of turning into a balloon because of his sort of balloon-shaped head and floating away, but that sort of lacked the punch that I thought the worm would have. and it was a lot of effort to do, but I really like the way it came out. It's also a nested sort of symbol, and it moves on its own, which means I don't really have to tween it. I just have to place it. Yeah, and that's just the trot face that I like to use, and people think it's funny, so I use it. And then it's over. And, you know, standard gas lamp funworks music. And I'm quite proud of myself. I thought this was going for like an hour, but I've managed to keep it to around 20 minutes. Of course, if there's anything you want to ask me, leave me a comment. Also, thanks for subscribing. It's amazing the reaction I've gotten to this, and I'm so grateful for everything. And that's pretty much all I can say. Thanks for watching, and you know, I'm terrible at editing videos.